So some time ago, I was doing some research at work and we were looking for old photos. There's a 150-year anniversary and we were given these. These are some slides. Now, slides are photographic film put into slide form. So you, rather than having the negative, so this is analog photography, you end up with a positive on a transparent bit of film like this one. And I got given all of these, and I have a scanner and it has a slide attachment. So I've scanned all of these in and I haven't got anything to do with them. I didn't just get those, I also got some large format ones like this, which I'm not quite sure what that is. I haven't scanned this in, but it looks like some kind of semiconductor material, some kind of silicon thing. It could also be those little coupled memory things. Also got this one, which is titled Modern Optics, and this one, which I think is pretty gnarly. I've no idea what this is. I assume those are mathematical symbols. It says master on it, nothing else, I don't think. Oh yeah, used in a closer look at research in the mid-90s. So I think these are all late 80s, mid-90s maybe. Some of the computers in here look decidedly late 80s. They are darn cool though. Let's have a little closer look. So there you can see some of the slides we've got. There's one there with some old computers. That does look a bit 90s. They look like Archimedes computers. So I want to find a way of displaying these. I've decided that I'd like to keep these slides around and put them in something. So we're going to design a little box based off an old TV or something. So we're going to go and do some 3D design now, but first we need to measure these. So the outer diameter is, the outer edge is about 50 millimeters, and the other way is around 50 millimeters. So let's have a look at this inside edge here. How far is it away from the outside? That's around 12. We're not going to go with exact figures here, just rough, because my 3D printer is not going to be that exact. And that's around 6.5, we'll call it 6. Yeah, that looks about right. So we've got 12 from the top. Is that the same on the bottom here? Yeah, about the same there. So 12, 6, 6, 50 on all the sides there. Okay, let's go design something. Oh, you may also have noticed the Vistarama Mark II over there. We're going to do a video about that at some point. I was going to try and use it to illuminate the things, but it's not very bright, but we'll sort that out. So now that we've got our measurements, we need to create something. So I'm going to do that in Fusion 360. I happen to have the educational license because I work for a university, but you can get the hobby license and it is free. So it's free for a year and then you have to reconfirm it at the end. Basically, it says you're not using it for commercial use. So yeah, let's get started. First, we're going to model our slide. So create an object 50 millimeters by 50 millimeters. The rectangle tool is great for that. Next up, we need to create the inner portion. So this is our screen essentially. So we know that it is 12 millimeters from the bottom. So you can type that in, and we know it is 6 millimeters from the side. So again, type that in. Now the rectangle tool is a 2-point tool, so we're not going to be using that because it doesn't work well for this kind of thing. But there is another rectangle tool, which is a center point rectangle. So if we choose our center here, then it should snap to our points, just like that. It's clever like that, isn't it? I like it. So now we've got this, we can design around it. We can build a box that fits around our slide. Now it's up to you how you want to do that really, because there are lots of options and lots of choices you can make. I'm going to go with about 3 millimeters either side. I'm just using another rectangle here, and 3 might be too many. We're going to go for it. It depends how big you want your screen to be on your TV. So if you were going to want it a little bit smaller. I mean, if you wanted to have a portrait one, you can just change the whole dimensions here, but this looked fine. And I'll just put big dials on and a speaker grill and stuff and make it look a little bit more interesting. There's so much space up here you could take down as well, so you could bring that further down. In fact, do we want to do that? In fact, I think we will. So let's just undo that and bring that further down. So we're going to have more sticking up at the top. So we want 3 either side, 3 either side. Perfect. So that's our TV. So we're going to have a little bit more poking up at the top to grab hold of, and that's fine. So now we need to decide what the thickness of our box is going to be. I think 2 millimeters thick is ideal, and it's going to be 3 at the bottom. So we want that to be flush to the bottom. We don't want it to have any wiggle room, but we do want the sides to have a little bit of wiggle room. For when you're putting it in, it makes it a bit easier to slide it down. So 3 millimeters the bottom, 2 at the side. Now, we could extrude this straight away, or we can go on to make the back, which is probably a good idea. So we're currently on the top layer, and I get a bit confused as to which way is which. So if we're on the top layer, that means... So we need to be on the back layer, I think. Let's draw something on the back layer and figure it out. So let's, oops. So stop sketch, we're on the back layer, create sketch on the back. And then if we draw, what we're trying to do is the depth of the box. So 35 millimeters, but it's been a long time since I used the software. So, and I'd like it to be, what was it, 55 or 56? 56, there we go. So 35 millimeters depth and 56. And now I just want to see if it's pinged on the right section. Yes, it has. Good. So that's the front of our box here, and this is the very back. And there's the sketch for the front. Whew. I'm pleased that worked out. Right, so now we need to do some extruding. Let's also draw on the... So it was 2 on the sides and 3 at the bottom, wasn't it? So that's perfect. Was it 3 at the bottom? Probably not. But we do need a bit of a lip here for this to sit in. So we're not going to have it straight at the front. So let's undo that. So if we're going to have the slide sat in there, where is that? It's about 3 millimeters in where it starts to go in, but we need it to be 2 so that we can have a little space. So 1, 2, 2 millimeters back, probably. That sounds like it's reasonable. So our slide will be 2 millimeters back and 2 either side. And it was 1.2 millimeters, wasn't it? So let's make it 2. So that we've got a little bit of wiggle room. Now that's where our slide's going to slot in. So we need that for the top of the box. But we also need to know that this has an area so it can't fall out. So if we ignore the size of the box and we draw something a little bit bigger. So 3 millimeters as a little stopgap, so a little back to it. That sounds pretty good. And then we'll just draw the rest of our box there. Okay, let's extrude this and see what we get. Now, the easiest thing to do would be just to extrude the whole box out and then get rid of the rest. So we'll do that now. So we're going to extrude from the bottom side first, just because it makes it a little bit easier. So if I finish our sketch and extrude this section, we'll leave this for now. In fact, we'll extrude everything but that. That's probably going to be the easiest thing. And then we need to extrude up to our point there. So 44 it looks like. There we go. So we've got a hole all the way down. And now if we extrude again, let's hide our body for a second. And we need to reveal our sketch again. It's annoying that it does that. Oh no, actually we don't need to do that because we set our base here. No, that's cool. So let's cancel that. And we're going to extrude that there. So now let's add some pizzazz to the thing. So we can create a little like dial on there, a little knob. And let's just create a little box here, shall we? In fact, we can draw that on if we want to, but we don't need to. And just click OK. So now we've got sort of the beginnings of our TV. If we'll just turn off our sketches, you can see it looks fairly plain. There's our slot in the top, and we've got some little dials and things on the front. Now we can do other things here. We could jump back into the sketch mode actually, and just draw on here. Right, so now we've got the beginnings of a TV with a little bit of adornment on it. Not totally happy with this. I think we'll tweak it a little bit. We also need a hole for the cable actually, because we're going to have this powered by something, probably USB. So if we go over here and we select hole, there we go. We can select this side, and then we can choose how big we want that hole to be. So 12 millimeters is might too big. What about 3 millimeters? Maybe 3.5. No, 3 millimeters is probably okay for a crappy USB cable. So let's just pop that down here. Have a little look around and make sure we're not messing it up. That looks okay. We'll just bring it a little bit closer over here. Not gonna. Oh, that's wrong. Look at that. Whoops. Let's do that again. There we go. Click OK. Okay, so there's our hole. So that's what we're going to use to shove our cable in. We can do other things to this, like we could round off some of these edges a little bit. We can use the fillet tool, select all the edges we want. Not sure how many of these I particularly want to smooth out. Probably not the bottom side. I've selected a face there, I didn't mean to. Let's see what that looks like. Just, well, that's a little bit too much. If you go too much, it has a little bit of an error. I kind of like the smooth look though. That looks interesting. Okay, we'll leave it like that. Maybe you might make it a little bit smaller. That is kind of extreme. Oh yeah, look. How small can we go? Oh yeah, okay. 1.5 millimeters. Yeah, that's good. I'm happy with that. I kind of like the, I mean, you could design loads of different things. So that looks all right to me. So we're going to have to print this in one piece. So it means we're going to have lots of supports on the inside. We don't have to print it in one piece. We could cut it up and print it into two pieces, but I think we're going to try one piece and see how it works. All right, I'm going to clean this up a little bit and then we'll come back. Okay, so it's time to 3D print this sucker. So I've generated my supports here and we're going to send it off to the 3D printer. I've had a little aerial up here, but largely it's the same as the thing you saw. Probably don't need supports there, but I've burnt them in now, so we're off to the races. So I'm printing this pretty fast and probably a bit too high a temperature. I think it's at 220. You can see some hairs forming there and the supports don't look too clean. But we'll go with it, whatever. It's working at least, so I'm happy about that. So the finished build time was 2 hours and 32 minutes. It came out all right. The supports sort of look reasonable, I suppose. We've got some cleaning to do now, so we'll have to cut those bits off. So I've cleaned it up and we now have a miniature TV that holds the slide. Maybe I should have been a little bit more accurate in measuring that up, but that'll do. I'm happy enough with that. So I've started scoring a bit of PCB that we're going to lay in the bottom there. It looks to be roughly the right size. It may need a little bit of finessing, but essentially all I'm doing is scoring down the lines on this Vera board, and then I'm going to snap it off, hopefully. There we go. That was simple. Right, so I've got some LEDs here. I'm going to use these yellow ones. The light isn't actually yellow that comes out of it. Oh, first time, good. So that's what we're going to go for. These coloured one. Well, are they coloured? They seem fairly white to my eyes, but there's a tinge of blue to it, which is probably fine. So what we're going to do is solder these on this side. So I know they're surface mount, a bit annoying, but whatever. So we'll have our positive rail up here, I guess, and our negative rail down here. And we'll probably need a resistor for each one, I would have thought. You can't really drive LEDs in a parallel with just one resistor, or at least it's not advisable. Well, it's certainly not the cleanest looking thing in the world. The tracks have been cut now, so let's just check for continuity, just to make sure that these aren't connected. So that one's connected, that one's not. Okay, good. We've got isolation there. That's excellent. So I'm going to use some 180 ohm resistors here. We need 5 of them. Well, that sure could look prettier, couldn't it? Never mind. Right, so now we've got it badly soldered together. Let's throw some power on and see what happens. Okay, it's fairly bright. That's all right. It's drawing 56 milliamps at 5 volts, which is less than I expected. I wonder why. Perhaps I got the forward voltage wrong on these. I thought it was 2.2 volts. 2 volts, in fact. Oh no, wait. Did I do the calculation for 150 ohms? I think I did. Anyway, that looks all right. I mean, that isn't the jankiest thing I've ever put together, but it's pretty close. Oh well, I'll cut the leads off, we'll get a USB cable and let's shove it inside. Now I have got an idea about how this might work, but there is an alternative way which I've just thought of. So inside my box, I can just put it at the bottom. I've got the hole at the bottom, but there is a problem with that. Most of the time this is going to be sort of viewed from above, and that means you'll see the LEDs in there. So I'm going to have to figure out a way of diffusing them. Or I could put them in the top and have them shine down so you would never see them. That might be a better idea, but I haven't very well cleaned the thing on the inside at the top. I don't know if you can see that. I can't see the screen. So I'm just about ready to go now. So I've got my USB cable, chopped off the unimportant end and thread it through so that we can solder the circuit board to it. You want to do that before, because otherwise you won't be able to thread it in. Somebody found out. So we're going to put this in the top here, and then I'm going to get a bit of paper and make sort of an infinity curve so that it reflects the light back out. Hopefully that will work. And we might put a bit of paper over the top of this as sort of a diffuser. So I'll go and find some bits of paper in a minute, but I'll just solder this up. You don't need to see this bit, and put it in. Right, hopefully you can see down there, but I've put my board in. I've kind of cheated. I used some white tack instead of sellotape or glue. I can't find either. So, well, actually that's not true. I did find some really, really rubbish sellotape, but it's not going to hold anything of significant weight. So next up, I just need to put the infinity curve in. Now, it's not really an infinity curve, but when you have green screens and things like that, you often will find at the edge of the room will be a curve like that rather than a straight line. And it's to more evenly reflect light back. And that's kind of what I want to do here. So I've got a tiny bit of tape that's not very sticky, but I need to put this in. So if we go from the top first, and hopefully I can, yeah, like that. No, not quite like that. That needs to, no, you know what, that will be okay. Let's give it a go, shall we? I'll go get a power bank. Well, there we go, that's what it looks like. Let's put a slide in. So I've just got it hooked up to a little power bank. This thing might actually turn off because it's not drawing an awful lot of current. So let's pop this in. Look at that. I love it. And so the angle's quite good as well, because this would be sat on a desk or something, a shelf maybe, but if you were to look from above, you can see those lights, but straight ahead you can't. Now, I wish I'd made the viewing window smaller than the actual slide window so that you couldn't see that, but I'm fairly happy. We can go, oh yeah, I love it actually. Do you know what? That's fine. I'm glad I put that lip in there as well, because if you don't put it in properly, it almost falls in. Oh, nice. I tell you what I'll do, now this is finished, I'll make the files available on Thingiverse so you can remix it, do whatever you like. But also, I'll do a separate video where I put all the slides in so that you can see them individually, and I'll make it so it's like super zoomed in and focused so you guys can look at all of them in great detail in 4K. So, all right, this has been a good one. I've enjoyed this. I'll speak to you all soon.